Guys, it's Unders. Today we are going to test out different versions of the SSL available from IK Multimedia, UAD, Waves and Softube and Native Instruments, and we're going to compare them and see which one we prefer and why I've been misled in the one that I've been using. Boom. Hi guys, it's Unders. Today we're going to have a look at different SSL emulations from a couple of different companies. Now, if these sorts of videos are helpful for you guys, please pop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel. It does help me out massively in creating more content for you guys. So what we're going to look at are the SSL options for the compressor, EQ and the bus compressor from 4 different companies. Those companies are Native Instruments and Softube as a combination. So Softube did the programming for Native Instruments, so they're sold by Native Instruments. IK Multimedia, Waves and UAD. Now the Waves and UAD are both officially endorsed ones. The Native Instruments and IK Multimedia aren't. And there's a couple of different features and different options between the between each version, and they have slightly different feature sets. Some experience slightly more advanced features in that they go a little bit beyond the scope of what you would expect, and the others are very stringent. This is exactly what you get on the desk and this is what you're still able to do. So what we've got here, guys, I've got a channel called Naked, one called NI, one called IK, one called Waves and one called UAD. Naked obviously doesn't have anything on. NI has got 3 plugins on. IK has 3 plugins on with 1 disabled. Waves has 3 plugins on with 1 disabled. And UAD has 2 plugins on. So Native Instruments, all the parts are separate. You have the dynamic section, you have the EQ section, and then you have the solid bus comp. That has its own advantages. What we'll do, we'll have a quick listen to the audio naked, then the NI, and then we'll go through the whole lot. I think that's going to be a good comparison before we go back and have a little listen to all of them. I will just mention real quick, I've got the L1 limiter just on the output. It's just set like that just to catch a threshold in case I accidentally or for some reason it unsolos. We're going to get 5 times of the pretty much the same audio all coming through, and it would just be phenomenally loud and cause horrible noise. So we've just got there catching that just in case. Okay, so that's a comparison of all of them going through. I don't know if you'll agree with me, but the IK and Waves one sound very, very similar. Native Instruments is a little bit empty and thin sounding, whereas UAD has lots of beef and extra warmth going through it. And there's a couple of reasons for that. We'll have a little look through them in a minute. So the Native Instruments are the plugins I've already got open across here, and I've sort of got them in signal flow that you'd expect: Dynamics, EQ, Gbus Compressor. Key things to notice on the solid Dynamics: it has this link left-right option, which is a great little feature to have. It means that the left and right can be processed independently. So as it is at the moment, if the EQ is caused, if the compressor is caused to trigger by either the left or the right channel, it will compress the same amount in both channels. However, if you turn link off, they will work independently. Now, this is more how you would traditionally have it set up on a desk. You may set your compression to be the same on both channels, but they are mono channels and they would be working independently. But we have the option for that to work here, and you can link channels on some of the SSL desks, so it allows us to do that. There aren't really any extra features apart from we obviously have a wet dry mix, which is a great little option to be able to have. Allows us to do NY style compression nice and easy without setting up any channels and things like that. We can swap between the hard and soft knee, which is available on most of the options and most of the analog desks as well. In this particular case, I've left the gate and expander off because we wanted to hear the compressor and EQ settings. By the way, if you want to mimic my settings, they are just down here in the notes, and if you don't understand them, just get me to translate them in the comments. So on to the EQ now. It's not laid out traditionally like you'd expect a SSL EQ to be laid out. I think that's part of them trying to move away from the fact it's obviously not endorsed. So you've got your high pass filter and low pass filter separated out over on the left and right, and we've got various switches to swap between. What is really nice about this version though, we can swap between the E-channel and the G-channel at just a click. Whereas we'll see some of the others, we don't have the option at all, or it's a completely separate plugin. Now the G-channel and E-channel, real differences being E is a more surgical style EQ. It allows for much more narrow cues, especially when cutting. Whereas G tends to be wider, more flat bell style EQs that are more musical sounding, and the fact you can swap between the two in just a single click is great. It's on E for the moment because we're comparing the E channels in the others, and the UAD, I only have the E channel available to me. The Gbus Compressor, again, we've got the link feature, which is really great. That doesn't traditionally exist on the channel, on the actual SSL desks. So we would just always be compressing whenever a threshold's triggered left or right, whereas we can have this independently, which is nice. Also, we have an extra bit of ratio. So I believe it's 2, 3, and 5 on the others. Let's grab the UAD because that is exactly, 2, 4, and 10, completely wrong. However, we can go 1.5 and the in-betweens here, and that is also available on the IK Multimedia one, which is a great little touch. It gives you a little bit more scope for playing around. Apart from that, no necessary features that we really look at, apart from, again, we've got the wet dry knob that allows us to do NY style compression again. If we have a look now at the IK ones, we've got 2 separate plugins. Now, compressor wise, these are identical, however it changes between the E-channel and the G-channel. In this case, the white, which is considered the modern, is the E-channel, and the black would be the G-channel, so that has been disabled when we're listening to it. Feature wise, key thing to note, we've got access to left right independent, and we can also have mid-side processing, switching between any of those. That's on almost every IK plugin. It's just something they have there by default. You can do left, right, and mid-side processing with almost all their plugs. Reset button, which is a nice little touch, and the ability to copy across 4 different settings is also pretty useful. Rather than sliders, they've gone for the little push-in button style options, more of how you'd expect to see it on a desk. So say hard, that would be swapping into the hard knee threshold on the compressor, but there's no other settings that you'd expect to be any different. When we look at the Gbus Compressor as well, We see again we've got extra areas of ratio. We've also got a sidechain high pass, so that's so we can roll it off and stop the low frequencies triggering the compressor. We could have it so it will ignore the kick, for example, right the way up to 500 hertz here, so you can potentially get it ignoring kick and most of the snare frequencies as well, and have it just respond to the high frequency and not get it pumping with all your low energy in there. As well, it's got the mid-side left and right processing options again, and the ability to copy it across 4 different settings and have a play around that way. Let's get all these closed off again. Now, if we go into waves, we're now into the more traditional ones. If we pop these open, we have got 2 separate channels again. You can see they are named G and E channel. So this is where we were just swapping over here. We've got 2 separate plugins just to change those EQ curves. I feel that's pretty unnecessary. It would be pretty good just to have a switch on here that would do it. I can close the G channel away because we're not using it in this instance. And you see setting wise we've matched again. What is really nice on this Waves version, if you hold over you can see the exact value you're on, and if you double click you can actually enter an exact value, which is nice. You can't do that on some of the others we're looking at, and it's especially frustrating on the UAD one, but it is more traditional on the UAD to how you'd expect it to be a desk. But we're in the digital world, why can't we enter exact values? Key things to note, this is laid out as you would expect it to be on a SSL. Difference being the punches here, you traditionally have to punch the dynamics in, punch the EQ in, they're in by default, and you bypass them instead of punching in. And that's it really difference wise on there. We're not going to see anything massive. And we've got a really traditional now G-Comp. So we've only got the 3 ratio values. We do have the automatic fade off, which we can turn on, and also we have the analog option. This then changes it to a purely digital compressor. It takes away the warming artifacts and the sloppy compression side of things. But for this process, we're wanting to hear what the SSL sounds like, so we've left that on. What we will note, actually, on the waves, you can also do analog on/off on the EQ. It's very, very subtle what it does. What we do, we will have a quick listen to it. I can only really hear it affecting sort of around when the kick comes in. You'll hear like a little bit of extra woolliness, extra bit of frequency being added. So we'll start with it off and I'll introduce it in. Yeah, so it's very subtle, but it's nice to have it there, and just you can just swap it into digital EQ if you just want to be benefiting from the curves that the SSL offers and the features of having the channel strip without the analog added in sound. It's a nice little feature to introduce in there. It doesn't really cost or hurt anything. Now, if we lastly look at the UAD, got a very similar layout to what we've been seeing on the waves here. In fact, if we put them side by side, purely see it's like a sizing, a structural option that's changed. Obviously, we've got the 3rd area here for our gain staging, which is introduced in the bottom right down here. And key thing is we can't click and enter values in here, so they are very click based, and they move in small increments, but we're not able to get exact values, and we can't get a readout of an exact value. Where I mentioned on the waves you would be bypassing by using these punch icons here. Here we are putting them in, which is traditionally what you'd have on the desk. You want your comp in, you turn the comp on, and you have to put it in the chain, same with the EQ. So that's just a slightly different workflow we've got between the two there. And obviously there's no turn the analog off option available on the UAD. If we now switch this over and we're going to grab the compressor again, we're going to get the waves one up against that as well, and we can see they're almost like for like. Only real difference is where we've got the auto fade setting, so here it comes up around and is above, whereas this runs across the bottom. And again with UAD we can't turn the analog off option. I think the last thing we're going to do is disable all of the EQs, and we'll have a listen to just the Gbus compressor. because it's quite a sought after sound, and it's something I've been using the Native Instruments one a lot. I think it's across the entire album, to be honest. So let's just leave those up as much as possible. Let's maybe get rid of these, and we'll pop you up there, and then we'll grab the IK one as well, and then we can have them all on at once, because who doesn't love having a screen full of bus compressors. And then I'll go through a smaller loop this time, and what we'll do is just start on naked and then just go through. One thing I will note, actually, on all of these compressors I've got the threshold set to +5 effectively, and that gives the right compression amount. However, on the UAD one I had to bring it sort of -5, -4-ish to get the same compression level. On +5 it just wouldn't touch it at all, so that's definitely a difference working between them. It's very strange, but hey, whatever, we've got the sound we want. Let's grab you. Awesome. So for me, that's really close between the IK and the UAD. I really like the warm sound it's giving. The NI one is great compression, but it's very clean. So I've used it across the entire album. It's on the bus of just about everything, just controlling it by like 1 decibel. Very clean, doesn't really affect the sound, whereas I like the effect the IK one and the UAD one are giving. Let's just have a quick listen to what I mean about the cleanness. We'll go from Native Instruments to the UAD. Yeah, not a fan of the waves at all. UAD and IK they really like. NI, great compression, it's just not really adding any character. So guys, I hope this video has been helpful for you. I hope it's helped you decide which SSLs you can go and grab. To be honest, they've all got free demos. So if you're using UAD, you can get it for 14 days. You can get the IK one for 14 days. You can get the Waves one for 14 days. Native Instruments, I don't know about the demo option on it. Most of the time you have to apply to Native Instruments and they will send you a demo option. But they're worth looking at. All of them are really great emulations, and especially the bus compressor. If you're not familiar with an SSL bus compressor, go and have a look at the emulations out there. These are 4 great options, but it will help you massively in your mixes. It's just such a wonderful compressor. You guys using Ableton, you have access to a really great emulation of this already, made by Cytomix, something to that effect. They made the glue compressor inside Ableton, and that is another emulation of this compressor, and it's absolutely fantastic. So you already have it. Guys, I hope the video has been helpful for you. Thank you very much. I will see you next time. Bye.